Force be with them.
Hello Thievings and Collectors, this is me, Daniel East 1000, back again with another Star Wars The Black Series figure review. Today we're going to be having a look at 6 figures from the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Trading Outpost line of exclusive figures. Hasbro released these last year. They came a little bit out of nowhere really. I have my own sneaky suspicions behind this. I think these were meant to be released at actual Disney parks, but ultimately I think because of the virus situation leading to park closures, Hasbro and the Disney parks decided maybe to count the losses and release these as store exclusives. I think we saw some other Galaxy's Edge promotional bits released as well alongside these. I mean, it might have originally been planned just to sort of promote the parks more than anything. I'm not too sure. That's just my thinking behind why they might have done this. And I'm glad they did, because it's given normal collectors who aren't able to get to them parks, i.e. me, a chance to, have a go at them. Particularly as some of these were already released exclusively to Galaxy's Edge in multi-packs. I know that DJ Rex, Hondo and Commander Pyre and the Mountain Trooper actually as well, they were released in some 3 or 4 packs. Unfortunately though, in a lot of them packs they came with figures that some people or most collectors will probably have, like Chewbacca, Kylo Ren and Rey. So to get these single carded and to not be forced to pay through the nose submitting to eBay scalpers, it's really nice to have these. These are all based around characters that appear at Galaxy's Edge or Batuu. For those of you who don't know, just a quick rundown of what Galaxy's Edge is. Galaxy's Edge is a theme park within the Disneyland parks that is set entirely on Star Wars. Just gonna stop you there, Chief. So canonically within Star Wars universe canon, Galaxy's Edge is set on a planet called Batuu, more specifically a little village or outpost called Black Spire Outpost, which is where the theme park is set and based around, if that makes sense. It's sort of become the mecca for Star Wars fans really. There's lots of cool references, there's lots of things that you can do, lots of things that you can buy. Like this wooden Grand Admiral Thrawn toy that you can only get exclusively from Galaxy's Edge. I need it! Food as well. Everyone likes food. And there's also cast members that are around the park that you can interact with.
Interesting.
If there's one Jedi left, it's not you. Affirmative.
Lots and lots of fun that seemingly can be had. Lucasfilm and Disney have really tried to push the park and actually accommodate it within Star Wars canon. So it's like a living, breathing space. It feels like it has history behind it because of the media and content that references it or features it within comics and books and films and whatnot. It's only a matter of time when the Mandalorian probably visits. That little note aside, that's what all these figures are sort of based from. So without further ado, enough of my waffling, let's get into them. All the figures feature pretty much the same style of packaging, although what I will note is R3X does feature a bigger box. It's a little bit chunkier, just because of the size of that figure. So that's pretty cool. It feels like you're getting a deluxe figure for the same price as any other standard figure. It's kind of weird how that works. The emblems that are on the spines of the boxes are fairly randomised from what I understand. You might end up getting a First Order signet or a Rebellion signet. Most of the ones that I got feature the First Order ones. It's a bit of a potluck draw as to what you'll get, especially if you're ordering online. So if you are a variant card collector, then it's going to give you a job to try and hunt them all, or both versions of each character. Part of me feels like this hints at the fact that these were going to be Disney Parks exclusives, because you have Resistance Trading Outposts and the First Order Trading Outposts. So obviously the ones with the First Order emblems will probably be going to be stocked at the First Order Outposts, and then the Resistance ones at the Resistance Outpost. Again, that's just purely my speculation. Like with all these figures, they do feature the lovely Gregory Titus artwork. You've got a name of the character at the front, the window style packaging, so you can have a look at what you're getting. You've also got that transported from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Trading Outpost stamped just there. The sides of the box to distinguish that their Trading Outpost figures have this sort of brown, sort of dirty, grubby look. You've got the name on the character on the other side, And then on the back, as always, you've got a picture of the character itself, Star Wars Black Series at the top, a bio of which I will include in the description for each of these characters that you can read in your own time if you so wish, and a ton of legal garb. That's pretty much it in terms of the packaging. Let's now take a look at the figures individually. We're going to kick things off with R5P8, of whom is Hondo Ohnaka's trusty astromech droid, who helps him out with his newly established business on Batuu.
Ohnaka Transport Solutions.
At the theme park you can see R5P8 as an animatronic, and he greets you before going on to the Smuggler's Run ride, which you get to act as a pilot or gunner or mechanic for the Millennium Falcon. It's also interesting to note as well, R5P8 also does appear in the Clone Wars. However, in the Clone Wars he does don a blaster on his dome, which they haven't included with this figure, but if you are good at your customization, you could probably have a go at it. I'm sure there's someone out there who does sell a kit for you to modify this. I've been slightly tempted to be perfectly honest with you, but I've left him as he is, just for the purpose of this review. It might be something I do later on down the line, but this is how he appears at Galaxy's Edge. Of course, he's got that goofy painted toothy smile, which is really nice to see. He's very grubby on his dome, and his dome's also slightly discoloured as well. Just a very grubby droid. He's in that red colour scheme. The body is effectively the same as the R2-D2 figure, of which I have reviewed, and the link will be up there somewhere. It's essentially the same figure, except it's got the R5 dome. They did do an R5-D4 figure, which I haven't actually got yet, but yeah, this is basically the same figure to that as well. Now, because it does reuse the R2-D2 body, it does feature those opening flaps just there, and you can pull out his, well, grabbing arm, which is coloured in red for some reason, and the other arm here, which is used for shocking or opening doors. Again, coloured in red. I'm not sure why they did that. It doesn't look too authentic really, so I just keep him with those closed up in his doors like so. Furthermore, because again it uses that R2 body, it does feature the removable panels. So if you did want, and you've got that R2, you can put the jets that come with that original R2 figure in there. But yeah, they haven't glued them in, so if you want to glue them, I'd probably recommend that, to be perfectly honest with you, even though they are fairly firmly stuck in there. It's just weird that they haven't done that. But if we just have a look around this figure, it's just very grubby, not very well kept, and that is sort of in keeping with the character. If you look at the top on the dome there, you've got a bit of sculpting, you've got a little antenna as well. Another feature that this figure has that I'm not particularly fond of, I have stated this in my R2-D2 figure review, but basically if you rotate the head, the third leg will come down, so you can't really articulate this head at all without it doing that. I really would prefer it if they just made this leg a detachable piece. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time complaining about that, it's just something to note. His feet do have wheels on the bottom, so you can have him rolling about. In terms of articulation, he has a somewhat rotating head, although it is quite limited because of the third leg and the gears inside there jamming at a certain point, like you could hear it then. Got swivel shoulders or swivel legs, swivel or pivoting feet, which only go that much, and if you bring his third leg down, he's got a bit of a pivot in there as well. So that's pretty much it in terms of articulation and things to look at with this figure. It's a nice enough addition. It would have been cool if they did include that blaster as a removable detachable piece, but this does represent the character as you see him at Galaxy's Edge, and another astromech is always a big thumbs up from me. Don't want to dwell on this figure too much because, like I said, I've pretty much reviewed it for the most part in terms of that R2-D2 figure, which is effectively the same sculpt, so there's nothing too different other than the paint apps and coloration and that cool goofy looking head there. It has so much personality to it, and it brings me so much joy. Next up, we're going to have a look at DJ R3X, of whom is the DJ at Ogre's Cantina. That's where you can see him playing the latest beats and tunes in the galaxy. Now, the cool thing about this guy is the original prop has been upcycled from the RX-24 from the Star Tours ride. He's been given this bright, vibrant orange colour rather than the sort of drab silver that he originally donned. So they took the prop from that and gave him this fresh look and new job designation. Furthermore to this, they've included that in canon, so from what I can understand from reading on Wikipedia, this character's backstory does seemingly go all the way back to Star Wars Rebels, and he was originally the Star Tours pilot that the Rebels crew do go on. A lot of things have gone on in his life for him to end up in this cantina, but I absolutely love that, and is very in keeping in terms of the production theme within Star Wars, in which if there's a piece of concept art or just anything, it gets upcycled, recycled and turned into something new. So rather than just chucking away a perfectly good prop, they've remodified it and made it into this at the theme park. In terms of the figure itself, this is really, really unique. I love this. It's a droid, which we don't get nearly enough of in Star Wars Black Series or in any scale at the moment. So to have a weird, quirky character, a DJ droid, is just absolutely awesome to me. And what also follows with this is some absolutely incredible paint detailing and surprisingly articulation. But we'll quickly have a look at the figure itself. Of course, you can see here he's got some headphones on, which pretty damn cool. On that visor you've got some Star Warsy markings on that face, the eyes, the body as well. And if I'm not mistaken, and I will probably correct myself in the edit here, but that I do believe is the Star Tours logo on that arm there. It's not, so if anyone could tell me that'd be great. You've got his arms, just lots of doodads on his body, some really cool weathering on that lower base there. Like I did say at the start of this video, he did come in a bigger box just because of his base, you know. It would be difficult to cram him into that standard Black Series packaging, but that's what the bottom looks like. You got these sort of vents going round here, or they could be speakers. Just really, really cool, really weird. Screams Star Wars completely to me. This guy doesn't come with any accessories, but in terms of articulation, more than makes up for it. It's just crazy. So he has a ball jointed head, of which you can move up and down, so you can sort of have him bob to the beats. Swivel in this shoulder, and that does articulate in and out. There's a rotation in the arm here, and his finger does close as well, so you can give him some CDs to hold, I suppose, or whatever data file for him to play. In this arm, he has a swivel round like so. There's a bit of articulation there. You can move this top piece as well, in up and down. Close his fingers again, that rotates around as well. Just insane amounts of articulation. That swivels, that bends, that swivels, that pivots. Just crazy. And the body itself does rotate, moves round. This moves around as well. Forgot to mention, even his headphones move. So you can bring them down like that, or you can bring them up. That's the gist of it. There's a lot of weird bits of articulation on this guy. It's so difficult to explain. It's so weird and wonderfully bizarre. It's great. That's all I can say. I love the backstory to this guy. I love the articulation. I love the work that Hasbro put into it. It could have just been a static piece really, but instead Hasbro went above and beyond just to make it a bit more interesting. It's a real talking piece on your shelf, and just like I said, different, so great. This guy should need no introduction, even though I technically already have, because I mentioned him when talking about R5P8. Hondo Ohnaka! He's... When Hasbro first announced that they were doing those multi-packs for Galaxy's Edge that I mentioned earlier in this video, and they said that, you know, this is the way you're going to get Hondo, I was gutted, because that was, for the longest time, the only way you could get him was to go to the parks, or submit to eBay scalper prices, and the pack for this one in particular I do seem to recall being stupidly high. Even people who split the boxes just for this guy, silly prices again. So the fact that Hasbro have now undercut the scalpers and made this guy available to collectors who might not have the means to go to Galaxy's Edge, at least a chance to get him, because Hondo is such a beloved character. For anyone who doesn't really know much about him, he's featured in the Clone Wars, or was first featured in the Clone Wars, and then Rebels. He's a pirate that's, fair to say, had a fairly crazy life.
I once was a captain, you know. Oh, the stories I could tell. So many of them true.
And running with many different characters.
You will pay for your insolence.
Insolence! We are pirates! We don't even know what that means!
Highs and lows, for sure.
This effort is no longer profitable!
Very quotable. So to have a Black Series figure of him finally in one's collection is just really, really great. I mean, this was a character I wasn't expecting to see as soon as we did in the Black Series, but here we have him, and that's in part thanks to Galaxy's Edge making him a permanent fixture. Like I did say with R5P8, Hondo Ohnaka has set up
Ohnaka Transport Solutions.
borrows the Millennium Falcon, of which you get to drive pilot mechanic. Like I said, it's just a very Hondo thing. Just super, super cool. Of course, you've got his helmet. If we have a look at some of the details, that head sculpt is absolutely brilliant. You've got his horns coming out of his cheek there, his helmet, the dreadlocks. You can sort of see his emblem sculpted into that helmet there underneath the jacket. You can see his chest, and you've got his necklace there. Just really, really great stuff. Coat as well, the really long coat that sort of drapes over where his blaster holster is. You can put his blaster in there. Just looks absolutely fantastic. This, of course, is how he's modelled from Galaxy's Edge in this costume. You can get him in some pretty damn good poses because of the articulation. He has a ball jointed head on a ball hinge, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, ball jointed wrists, ball jointed torso, ball jointed hips, thigh swivel at the top of the hips, although the blaster holster does sort of hinder it on this leg, double hinged knees, and ball jointed ankles with the rocker joints as well. That articulation also goes for the next figures that I'm going to be reviewing in a moment. May as well just mention that here because there's no point in retreading ground over and over and over again, making this video any longer than it actually needs to be. But in terms of Hondo and his accessories, he comes with this blaster, which you've seen in his holster. I'll get him to hold that for you. The strange thing about this guy is he has a trigger finger in his left hand. I can't really remember that from the show though, and that's quite nicely detailed. I tend to just keep his blaster in his holster, and you know, like how I had him posed to begin with, like that. Hasbro just really hit the nail on the head with this one. It's great. Although I would be curious to see if they do a Clone Wars or Rebels version of this guy at some point. For now though, I'm really pleased that we have this version of Hondo in our collections, and this one's absolutely great. It's Hondo. What more do you want me to say? I think out of all the figures, he's the best one by default, just for being Hondo. Commander Pyre, of whom, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not really sure why they've included him in this Galaxy's Edge assortment. He's the only figure that isn't like directly related to any media focused on Batuu or Black Spire. Unless it's because he does fall under the command of Captain Phasma. I don't really know. Answers on a postcard of this one. Personally, I feel like Hasbro just created this and made it exclusive because Star Wars Resistance was out around about the same time when the park was open, and it was just an easy way for them to do a recoloured First Order Stormtrooper. I really couldn't tell you, answer on a postcard or in the comments down below for that one. But we have a Commander Pyre. As I did say, Commander Pyre appears in Resistance, of which is an animated TV series that was met with mixed reviews. Suffice to say, I'm slightly doubtful that we'll see any more characters from this, so it's nice to get what we can get in terms of this guy from that show. So let's have a look at him. This uses the Last Jedi version of the Stormtrooper sculpt, just because the original, you couldn't really bend the arms as far as this to get him, you know, holding his blaster like that. So that's pretty damn swish. Obviously he's in that bright gold. You've got some grey armour for the biceps there. Yeah, you've got his grey pouches, the cylinder on the back there as well. Mine has a couple little mispaint apps. Obviously you can see a bit of gold there that's dripped onto his body. On the feet, it's not quite as clean as it could be, but it's nothing. It's really nothing. The figure's fine, just pretty damn swish. He comes with all the accessories that a Stormtrooper would typically come with, except obviously recoloured. So he's got the Stormtrooper blaster, which is recoloured in gold, and the little pistol, which is just in black, which you can strap onto his leg, and likewise with this blaster you can put that on his leg as well via a pay and socket. So that's pretty sweet. I'll give him his little pistol and show him off with that. He's got his pauldron as well. He likes gold. He's a gold stormtrooper. What more can I really say about him, to be perfectly honest? There's not a hell of a lot I can say that's probably already been said with First Order Stormtroopers. I mean, I'll take anything recoloured when it comes to Stormtroopers. Just not quite 100% sure why they just put him in this assortment though, or made him exclusive in those multi-figure packs. Nonetheless, Commander Pyre, his articulation, like I said with Hondo, exactly the same as Hondo. Nothing to really run through in terms of that. Captain Cardinal, or Archex, who does have a actual relation to Batuu, as he does play a pretty prominent role in the Phasma novel and Black Spire, just because he has a lot of interaction with the character V. Maradi. She is a cast member at the part, so it's kind of weird that they didn't make her but made Pyre, because she would have accompanied this figure really greatly. Side deviation. Archex, or Cardinal, is a really interesting character. He's the predecessor to Captain Phasma and actually subsequently trains her as well. He really doesn't get along with Phasma just because they share two different views. Phasma's more of a brutal, hardened warrior, which this guy, he's a bit more of a diplomat within the First Order ranks, admired by Supreme Leader Snoke. He's actually the one that found out Captain Phasma killed General Hux' dad, Brendel Hux. Cardinal tells Hux that. Hux like, oh, I know, I got her to do it. Insane. Cardinal sacrificed himself for the resistance, allowing for them to keep Batuu as a base of operations, and that's his relation to Galaxy's Edge really. So pretty interesting stuff in terms of the figure. Another recoloured Stormtrooper. I believe this uses the same sculpt of the Last Jedi First Order Stormtrooper, just because you can bend his arms as far as that. If we look a little bit closer into some of the details, it's pretty much just red, a red version of that Pyre we've just looked at, except he comes with that First Order Stormtrooper rifle that's got the stock on the back. Of course, you've got that blaster pistol that does attach to his leg there, and the same can be done with this blaster, but I'll just keep him holding that. He does have this really nice flowing cape that is very reminiscent to Captain Phasma's, so that's pretty cool. I love how that actually does naturally flow and pose. I do think it could be a bit better quality though, but it's still nice for what it is. If we look round on this figure, it just looks really cool. You can't go too wrong with a Stormtrooper recolour, to be fair with you. There's nothing really too much to talk about. This guy, articulation is the same as Hondo's, like I did say. It definitely does provide a different presence on your shelf. There's just not really too much to talk about it in terms of a figure itself. What I will say though is this should have included a swap out head sculpt for this guy. Last but not least, we have the Mountain Trooper, of which I feel like is a Hasbro homebrew concept. There's not a hell of a lot written about him on Wikipedia. He might appear in some novelizations, but it's not really cited on there. So it's possibly safe to assume that this is a Hasbro homebrew concept, or a concept that was maybe unused for costume design at Galaxy's Edge itself. I don't know, that's all speculation. It's just there's not a hell of a lot known about this guy, other than it was made for one of those multi-packs that was made exclusively to the part. But I have to say, the design on this guy is really striking and incites a lot of curiosity. Again, follows one of those sort of toy box themes that Star Wars does really have, and I love it when Hasbro is given the opportunity to make something, if this is one of their homebrew ideas, just to explore and play around within that and come up with their own ideas. This does sort of have Shore Trooper vibes from the original trilogy era in terms of just the bodysuit and a bit of the helmet as well. I like the idea that the First Order basically took outfits from the Empire and just made them a lot more modernised, and this guy sort of follows suit with that. So as the name sort of suggests, this guy is up in the mountains. Batuu is a very, mountain outcropped place, and this guy sort of suited and booted for that sort of climate and environment. He does come with a very interesting blaster rifle, something that we've not really seen before come with a Star Wars figure. Interesting to note as well that on the packaging box art for the multi-packs, he's shown with a Shore Trooper blaster. That's seemingly changed obviously from conception to reality. They've given a different gun. Looks very different, not the typical sort of blaster rifle you would see come with a First Order Stormtrooper, and looks a little bit more original trilogy inspired, at least to me. I don't know if this is an error on my figure in terms of that blaster, but the ammo clip hasn't really been glued in, so you can remove that, at least on my version. I don't know, answer in the comments below if you could let me know if yours does that as well. But apparently I can remove that, so that's possibly a feature, I'm not too sure. But that's the only accessory he comes with. But yeah, just some really interesting sort of costume design on this guy. I don't know if the red shoulder pad distinguishes a certain sort of rank. It's just a really intriguing figure and character as well, because there's just not really a hell of a lot known about it. But it is a completely new sculpt, so you can't really grumble at that. As I said, articulation exactly the same as Hondo. All in all, for the most part, I think these figures are great, unique, quirky even inclusions to the Black Series line of figures, and I really do hope in the not too distant future that Hasbro create more characters that feature a little more prominently within the park. As mentioned, V Maradi would accompany that Cardinal absolutely fantastically. Doc Andar, the antiques dealer as well, would be really great. Whom funnily enough gets a on-screen mention in Solo.
Have you been attentive to Doc Andar?
Sidebar there. I'm really pleased that we got to get these guys. Due to the current situation, we might not be able to go to Disney parks, but at least Hasbro and Disney parks themselves managed to bring the fun and escapism of the park to us. That's my review of all the Star Wars The Black Series Galaxy's Edge Trading Outpost figures. 6 figures in one video is not really something I've done before, but I had a lot of fun doing it. Certainly an interesting assortment. I really do hope they do more of these in the near future. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know what characters you would pick from Galaxy's Edge. So with that being said, this is me, Daniel 1000, signing out, and thank you very much for watching.